Hey, everybody, welcome back to Path to Play. It's Valentina.
And Rory.
Today, we're going to be talking about how you can prepare after you verbally committed, leading up to the time where you have to report for your preseason date. A verbal commitment is essentially your promise to go and play for the school that has just recently offered you a spot to play at their school. So, before we talk about that today, we have our question of the day, of course. So today's question for you, Rory, is do you remember your National Signing Day? And for context, for anyone that doesn't know what National Signing Day is, it's basically when you sign your official letter that is confirming that you will be going to play and attend whatever university you verbally committed to.
Yes, I do remember it. I remember it because we had an event from my club that was kind of just like a setup sort of photo event just for
Okay.
fun because
Hmm.
we weren't actually signing the real letters of intent there.
Hmm.
I think I signed mine in the morning, but I don't really remember signing the actual one. I more remember the just for fun event for our club.
Yeah, I think I fake signed mine about 2 times, and then the real signing moment was actually just at home with my parents in my dad's office, I'm pretty sure. But same as you, we had a school event where it was most of my classmates. This is typically around your senior year, February, I
Yeah.
think maybe March months. And then we also had a club event, and that's a little bit more intimate. You're with your teammates, your coach, and I think my mom was there. But again, you fake sign for a photo, and then the real signing
Yeah.
is later on when you actually have to read through the documentation.
That's cool that you had one at school. I didn't have one at school.
Yeah, that one was, I think, kind of the bigger deal
Uh-huh.
one. I mean, I think I see a lot of graphics nowadays from football, American football players, that is, and basketball players that go to all of these big schools and they have all these cool announcements. And I think the big day leading up to their signing day is usually that whole big event in high school because you get to bring your family and your coach is there and all of your classmates and the whole school's watching. So it's a pretty fun day, and everyone takes pictures and all that fun stuff and, school spirit. So
Yeah, that would be fun.
so first of all, Rory, why don't you take us way back to the moment that you committed? Do you remember where you were, what you were doing? Did you see it coming? Like, what was happening in that day where you verbally committed, most likely on the phone?
I remember I was in my bedroom and I had gotten the offer and was calling them back because I had talked to my parents and we had agreed. Everything was great and we wanted to accept it. So then I called the assistant coach back in my bedroom and I remember that moment very, very clearly actually. And then I don't really remember what happened after that, but I remember calling back and being a very happy time.
Interesting. And for everyone that is totally lost, or if you haven't listened to our previous episodes on what it means to verbally commit, it is basically an unofficial way of promising the school that you're going to be attending the school and being part of the team based on the offer that they have given you, both financially and athletically, right? So, we've talked in many other episodes about the process of getting recruited and what that looks like and how it varies across different divisions. So, this will look very different for everybody.
Right.
But ultimately, a verbal commitment is a verbal agreement that you're going to be attending the school. And while it is a commitment, it's technically not official until the moment that you sign that national letter of intent that we were describing earlier. So, what will happen sometimes is if someone commits super early and they're in their sophomore year or their freshman year, something like that, and they then change their mind, technically you can revert your decision and either commit to a different school or not play at all. So I feel like I see this a lot with basketball players and American football players that decommit at some point in their journey before they go off to college and then they find a different school, whether that's because they got a better offer or they were just, trying to have a safety net to begin with and they kept looking around. So that's kind of what I've noticed.
Yeah, I would say I feel like I've noticed it for those other sports as well, especially kind of the more marquee players who
Mhm.
have a lot of offers.
Yeah.
And also for women committing to colleges for soccer, it's a little bit more common as they tend to verbally commit earlier on. So when you're
Yeah.
committing like your freshman year, sophomore year of high school, there's more time for things like coaches to change and stuff like that.
Exactly. And again, you're welcome to visit our previous episodes where we talk a little bit more in detail on what this looks like and how you're communicating with the coaches before, because there's lots of rules and regulations on how ultimately you get to this point of commitment, which is why if you are committed now, you're probably very excited to leave that part behind you. The two questions that Rory and I have asked ourselves now in hindsight are, how do I prepare physically and how do I prepare mentally? So, starting off with the physical preparation, what do you think you did well and what do you think you could have done better to prepare physically from the time that you verbally committed to the moment that you left for college?
I would say physically what I did well was my cardio. I played a ton of soccer from that point on. And since it was in the summer, I had an entire 12 months of academy season. So I was training 4 times a week, playing twice on the weekends. And so that volume of soccer really helped me stay in shape and very fit going into college. And I think that was huge. When I was a freshman, I felt like I was able to run and stay with everyone stamina-wise. But where I definitely should have spent a lot more time was in the strength department. I think with all of the playing I did, I didn't have a ton of extra time or energy to work on the strength part, or honestly just the knowledge. I didn't really know how to strength train at that point in my life. And once I got to college, that was a big awakening for me, that 4-year age gap between you and the seniors. I had never really experienced anything like that, and so that is something that I would really suggest.
Was there a time where your club season or your club trainings ended and you felt like there was a gap between how much training you could do or resources and facilities that you could access? Because I'm thinking about, the general calendar season of club sports, at least for soccer. I feel like usually the summertime, unless you're still playing very heavily with regionals and national tournaments, that's kind of a less busy time for a lot of just regular club leagues. So I'm wondering, do you feel like that was a time where a lot of the training fell on you individually and you had to figure it out? Or did you have enough access to teams or scrimmages that you could go and get those extra touches in that you were talking about?
It definitely does fall on you much more heavily. So our season ended probably in early June, maybe mid-June. And then after that, my club also had a summer league team for most of the
Okay.
college players. And so
Hopeful.
some of my teammates and I were going to play in college. We played for that team. But that team was just kind of like a couple times a week trainings just to stay fit. So it definitely does fall on you a lot more. And so that is definitely a great time to work on strength training, get as sharp as you can technically, and really get your cardio locked in.
What do you feel like would have been helpful for you to be more aware of the strength training piece? Like, did you not receive any sort of fitness packet for guidance on how to prepare for preseason, or were you not really oriented towards what to expect as far as what your strength training should look like or what the expectation was for when you arrived to campus?
Yeah, I don't think we got a strength packet. but that could be not true. I don't really think I understood the value of it. I had played so much that year and was in such good quote unquote soccer shape. I guess I kind of overlooked the aspect of strength training and it being kind of a different game in college.
Interesting. So I had a little bit of a different experience. I think there was a very big emphasis on strength and conditioning training as a supplement to all of the soccer we were playing. Probably since my sophomore year of high school, I remember we had access to a strength and conditioning coach at my club team at that time. And so when I switched clubs, we were required to go do strength training, I think maybe once or twice a week. So I would also, I think, ultimately agree with you on, I think it's a huge piece in prep for college soccer. So if it's something that you don't have access to now or you're unsure of it, I definitely would try and seek out some mentorship or resources or even ask us questions on what's the best way that I can start to build some of these strength training habits before I get to college, because I do think that there were varying levels of experiences and expertise once we arrived in college. Like, I guess I was more so kind of surprised that not more of my teammates had been exposed to strength training, and we did get a fitness packet. Like, we would get a fitness packet every summer, which was quite helpful, honestly, in preparing for preseason.
Yeah, and with things like YouTube now, there's so many really good free
Right, yeah.
resources to do that kind of stuff, which I'm sure I could have found as well when I was younger. I just wasn't really looking. And we did do some kind of strength training the summer I committed, but then I didn't do it again. And I think it definitely did benefit me a lot then. And is definitely something I missed out on big time going into freshman year.
Yeah. So that's one huge element that I would prioritize for sure, if not for your preseason, but also just for injury prevention. I
Right.
just think that it helps so much because typically your preseason will be very high volume training, and
Hmm.
that always ends up leading to injuries if you don't care for yourself properly. So that's a big one. Was there anything else that you remember that helped you prepare appropriately, or any other big gaps that you see now as major opportunities for setting yourself up for success when you arrived to campus?
Yeah, I would say definitely trying to get games in the summer leading up. I think there's no way to simulate game fitness
Mhm.
in soccer specifically. You can do all the running you want, but there's just something different about that. So I think that was definitely very helpful. I know in our preseason, we did a lot of games and we would have multiple inter squad matches and preseason games, so there's a lot of playing, so that's definitely an area where you wanna be ready to go.
I would agree with you. It's huge to get just the minutes, the game environment, because once you get to preseason, something that you can expect is you're getting evaluated the moment that you step onto the field. So a lot of the training, in addition to technical drills and pattern plays, is going to be games. Just seeing you as a player within a new team environment, how you adapt, how you're playing with your new teammates, how you're settling in, all the things. So games are huge. I would say that probably one of the bigger pieces, and then on top of that, probably just technical work, staying sharp, not going to Europe for 2 weeks before your preseason. That's what I did. But anyways, obviously a lot of physical preparation should be factored into your plans from the moment you commit to the moment that you step on campus. Obviously, a very big piece of that whole year, or, longer than a year if you commit very early, those hours are going to be fulfilled by just your club trainings, your high school games if you are playing high school, and your strength training hours if you are already implementing those. But you'll definitely want to budget some of that summertime from the time that you are finishing up your high school up until when you report for your preseason date. And also, big thing here that I probably would recommend. This isn't something that I did, but I think a lot of girls from my team inadvertently ended up hurting themselves because they were training too much.
Yes, you can definitely overtrain.
And I think that that's something that you have to balance out with things like strength training and just making sure you're taking your recovery days. And at a certain point, especially before your report date, like maybe the week or two before, especially when you're going through stress, if you're moving, if you're trying to sort out your travel plans, sometimes it's best to just start deloading
Mhm.
before your report date, because at that point, you've hopefully done a lot of your preparation well in advance so that you're not burning yourself out and then injuring yourself from overuse a week before you have to do your fitness test, your scrimmages, all of those things. And I feel like I saw that happen so much.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's just so much strain and load that if you're going into the preseason beat up already, you are really gonna struggle and increase your chances of some sort of injury.
Yeah, bottom line is just making sure that you're taking your recovery days as well. Training is obviously important, but the rest and the recovery and the fueling will be crucial in
Mhm.
prepping yourself to be successful and have a long preseason. Great. So that was the physical piece that you could have improved on some areas like strength training. I probably could have improved on, getting a few additional games in. Probably for both of us, I'm sure we could have used additional fueling, extra rest. So just a lot of considerations, but if you have a plan, especially if you have a good fitness packet to follow, I would definitely try and prioritize that. On the mental side, with the question on how do you prepare yourself mentally, I think this is probably an area where we both discussed that there were a lot of areas for opportunity. What do you feel like you did well to prepare mentally upon your arrival to preseason? And what could you have maybe spent a little bit more time prepping yourself for?
Looking back on it, I don't think I really did too much well in terms of the preparation. I thought I was ready for the step up into college soccer. My coach, my last 2 years of high school, was really intense and our team was very competitive. And so I thought that would emulate the college intensity and spirit a lot, but it's definitely a much different ball game in terms of the importance on every practice, on every rep, the pressures from the coaches always watching, and just the fact that you're in a team with so many people and everyone wants to play and everyone's fighting for so many spots. I think once I got into that environment, I didn't realize that, wow, this is gonna be way more intense than I was thinking.
I completely agree with you. I think that one thing that we both agreed on when we were talking about this was the fact that our coaches quite literally told us to our faces that we were not going to play in college. And yet, as a teenager, you kind of roll your eyes at that statement because
Mhm.
in our minds, we're thinking, we have played our entire lives. We have never had truly to, fight for a spot on the club team. We haven't had to worry about another 10 people on the roster potentially replacing our spot on the field. None of that prepared me personally for the transition into college of how competitive it felt, because for my case, I was coming onto a team of 40
Mhm.
players. Like, that was a huge roster, and I just thought I was gonna be able to stroll onto the field and continue playing business as usual like I did in club. But the reality is that, like you said, there's majority of players who are 2, 3, 4 years older than you are. They've gone through everything that you're about to go through. They already earned their spot. They're actively trying to not get replaced by
Right.
the freshmen that you currently are. So it's really tough to swallow that and try to shift away from the mindset of what club was and how much you were playing and how you have the respect there, how the team knows you, your coach knows you, your coach is looking out for you, your team's looking out for you. That's not necessarily the case when you get to college. The reality is that it's just an individual evaluation once you get onto the field in preseason because everyone is truly trying to earn their spot on the team. And it sounds harsh. Maybe right now you're reconsidering your whole decision of playing in college. But I think the sooner that you realize that and the sooner that you come to terms with the fact that it's going to be challenging, it's going to be a lot more manageable emotionally, psychologically as you're navigating through those tough moments.
Yeah, I think one thing you said that's very true is the standards and the stakes on everything that you do are much higher. And that really, I think, made me uncomfortable at first or a little confused, maybe. And so I was then kind of questioning everything I was doing. And it wasn't really ever an issue with my technical ability or anything like that. It was more just I was kinda in my own head, and I was a little confused, and it wasn't what I was expecting, and so my level of play dropped off for especially the first couple weeks of our preseason. But after about a month, I would say, in trainings, I started doing much, much better and was much closer to the people who were starting playing every game. And so I realized at that point, I'm here. I got recruited to be here. I've been playing soccer all my life and I'm meant to be here. And I think I was able to just settle down and really feel like part of the team and understand the new environment. And if I had been able to get past that understanding stage earlier, if I had known that was coming, I think I would have had a much smoother start.
Yeah, and I think exactly what you're saying is probably the advice that we're trying to give here because we do not want to discourage anybody from going to play or scare you off or even make you nervous. If you are feeling that way, first of all, that's totally normal. But I think exactly what you're saying right now is the best way to manage those inevitable emotions that you're going to have to experience once you arrive. So I think the biggest takeaway there is to come back to that mantra or thought or whatever it is that grounds you in the moments that you start going down a rabbit hole because I was in that
Yeah.
rabbit hole
Fully in the
so
rabbit hole.
many times that I can't even count. Like, I can feel my stress right now from preseason freshman year. Like, I can close my eyes and transport myself back to a sunny day in Seattle,
Mhm.
post fitness test, getting on the field to scrimmage and overthinking the bad pass I just made and then the horrible touch that I took after. And then later on in my dorm room, I'm still ruminating on that play. And then the next day, it just continues to carry over and it snowballs and it snowballs. So I think had I built the skill a little bit earlier on how to ground myself and come back to the fact that, look, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be a good experience. Even when it's hard, there are things that I can take out of this situation, this preseason, this bad training, even.
Agreed. And I think if I could go back and do one thing, that is definitely what I would try and work on. Really trying to improve on having a short term memory and being able to look at it in a more zoomed out view,
Yes.
not of every like, not of hyper examining every touch that I have taken, zooming out and saying, "Hey, I might not have done this very well this training, but I have the opportunity to have fun next training and do well next training," rather than letting your worries about the previous one bleed in and then let that snowball and have you kinda go farther down that rabbit hole.
And our point here is just return to that moment of gratitude where you committed and you're excited to go and you know that you're good enough to be there, and come back to that and enjoy the experience and strengthen the muscle of being able to widen your perspective and take that sort of bird's eye view, if you will.
And to have only gotten this advice beforehand.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We were warned heavily, but still,
Accepted the advice, I guess.
yes.
We were given it, just didn't really
Yep.
wanna take it.
Didn't take it seriously, which happens a lot. So, as we've covered the physical aspect, the mental aspect, I think there are always a lot of areas where we could have prepared better. But ultimately, as you're prepping for moving on to college, leaving club behind, and leaving high school behind, just keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, you have accomplished something very notable. It's an exciting time. Keep training, keep improving, look forward to the opportunity.
It's a very exciting time for you, so really enjoy it and don't let it overwhelm you.
Yes, yes, we didn't mean to scare anyone. We
Yeah.
hopefully this was helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, or if you have any other stories or other ways that you feel are important to consider when mentally or physically preparing for your preseason date, as always, please reach out to us.
Thank you so much for listening. We will see you guys next week.
See you next week.